It all started with something small, something that might not seem like a big deal at first glance. A gate. A simple, heavy-duty metal ranch gate at the entrance to a long dirt driveway. It was there for a reason: privacy, security, and to keep strangers from wandering down a private road that led to acres of land, livestock, and a family home. But in neighborhoods where homeowners associations seem to believe they control more than just curb appeal, a gate became the start of a feud that grew more bitter by the day. The family who lived on the ranch had always kept to themselves. They weren't loud, they didn't throw wild parties, and they didn't clutter up their yard with junk. Their land stretched well beyond the boundaries of the HOA, yet the entrance to the driveway still cut through a small section of the neighborhood the association technically claimed authority over. That's where the problem started. Karen, the self-appointed enforcer of the HOA rules, had long considered herself the sheriff of the community. She didn't wear a badge, but she might as well have. She walked with the confidence of someone who thought every mailbox, fence, and tree fell under her personal jurisdiction, and to her, the gate was a nuisance. She claimed it was ugly, even though it was just a standard ranch gate. She claimed it lowered property values, even though it was tucked at the far end of the neighborhood, barely visible from the road. And when those excuses didn't gain traction with the HOA board, she escalated to something pettier, using the gate as her own shortcut. Instead of driving all the way around the neighborhood's winding streets, Karen decided that the dirt driveway of the ranch was her personal access road. She would swing the gate open without permission, speed down the gravel path, and use the back exit to shave a few minutes off her commute. It didn't matter that it was private property. It didn't matter that the homeowners had told her to stop. She felt entitled to do as she pleased. At first, the family thought it was a one-off mistake. Maybe she was lost, maybe she was confused, but then it kept happening. The gate would be found left unlatched in the mornings, fresh tire tracks pressed deep into the dirt. Neighbors mentioned seeing Karen's SUV slipping in and out of the ranch road as if it were her own. And the more the homeowners complained, the bolder she became. The family tried speaking to her directly. They asked politely, then firmly, then through written notices. Karen brushed it all off with a smug grin and the same excuse every time. It's community property. It didn't matter that it wasn't. She said it often enough that she began to believe it herself. Next came the HOA letters. Not letters supporting the family, but letters accusing them of violating rules. Karen had somehow convinced the board that the gate was in the way of community flow. They wanted it removed. She painted it as an obstruction that inconvenienced drivers. The irony was that no one else in the neighborhood used the gate, nor had a reason to. But Karen was relentless, filing complaint after complaint, hoping the board would force the homeowners to give up. Instead, the homeowners doubled down. They reinforced the gate with a sturdier lock and posted, "Private property, no trespassing" signs on both sides. It should have been enough. For a normal person, it would have been, but not for Karen. Soon after, the signs were torn down. The lock was mysteriously broken one morning. The metal shank cut clean through as if with bolt cutters. Fresh tire marks were visible again, this time leading dangerously close to the livestock pens. A calf had been spooked so badly it nearly injured itself against the fencing. That was the last straw. The homeowners called the sheriff's department. They filed reports. Deputies came out, took notes, and promised to keep an eye on things. But unless Karen was caught in the act, there wasn't much they could do. And Karen, ever sly, made sure to only slip through when no one was watching. But the family wasn't going to let her win. Not this time. If Karen wanted to keep using the ranch gate as her shortcut, then she was going to learn a lesson she'd never forget. They began planning carefully, not out of revenge, but out of necessity. If the law couldn't stop her, then maybe a little strategy could. First, they installed a set of hidden cameras, camouflaged against the fence posts. High resolution, motion activated, and angled perfectly at the gate. Every time it opened, every time a car rolled through, the footage was captured and time-stamped. They knew it was only a matter of time before Karen would come snooping again. Second, they made the gate look the same as always on the outside. Same hinges, same latch, but behind the frame, they installed a new mechanism, a clever modification that looked ordinary but functioned very differently. Without giving away too much to curious eyes, let's just say it ensured that anyone tampering with the Latch would get a nasty surprise. Not one that would injure them, but one that would leave them embarrassed, frustrated, and, most importantly, caught in the act. The trap was set. Days went by. The gate remained closed, the cameras waiting, the homeowners patient. Then, one afternoon, the sound of gravel crunching in the distance set everything into motion. Karen's familiar SUV rolled into view, slowing as it neared the ranch entrance. She glanced around, checking if anyone was watching. Satisfied, she climbed out, striding to the gate with her usual arrogance. She didn't know the cameras were watching. She didn't know the latch had been modified, and she certainly didn't know that her entitled shortcut was about to backfire, in a way she would never expect. What happened next would change the feud forever, turning a quiet ranch family into the unlikely heroes of the neighborhood, and exposing Karen for who she truly was. And that's where the real story begins. The SUV idled just outside the gate, its engine humming softly against the backdrop of a quiet afternoon. Karen stepped out with her usual self-importance, the same confidence that had carried her through dozens of confrontations before. She tugged at the latch with little effort, expecting it to swing open as it always had. But this time, something was different. The latch resisted her pull. It looked normal enough, but the more she tugged, the more it held fast, refusing to give way. Her smug expression faltered as irritation crept in. She pressed harder, then jerked it violently. The mechanism triggered. Instead of the gate opening smoothly, a burst of bright, sticky dye sprayed outward, coating her hands and the front of her blouse in a vivid shade of orange. It wasn't paint that would damage property, just a harmless marking dye used for tagging livestock. Non-toxic, washable but unmistakable. The kind of stain that lingered long enough to prove exactly what someone had been doing. Karen shrieked, stumbling backward. Her SUV door was still open, and as she rushed to wipe her hands, she smeared the dye across the upholstery and steering wheel. The cameras caught everything: her shock, her panic, her clumsy attempt to hide the evidence as she looked around to see if anyone had witnessed her. Humiliation, but the worst wasn't over. The gate, rigged to record any attempt to tamper with it, sent an automatic alert to the homeowners' phones. They watched the live footage in real time, their plan unfolding perfectly. Karen, flustered and furious, kicked at the dirt before scrambling back into her SUV, streaks of orange still glaring against her clothes. She slammed the door and sped away, leaving a trail of dust behind her. For the first time, the family had undeniable proof. They downloaded the footage, saving multiple copies. One went directly to the sheriff's office, another to the HOA board, and one was kept safe in case Karen tried to spin the narrative, as she so often did. And spin it she did. The next HOA meeting turned into a spectacle. Karen arrived with her usual theatrics, claiming she had been attacked by a dangerous contraption at the ranch gate. She called it a booby trap designed to hurt neighbors. She demanded immediate action against the family, insisting they be fined, their gate removed, and their property made safe for the community again. Her voice rose as she described the humiliation, though she conveniently left out the part where she was trespassing. She painted herself as a victim, someone just trying to check on the gate for the good of the neighborhood. But this time the tide turned. The homeowners calmly presented their evidence. The board members, who had once half-listened to Karen's rants, now watched the footage on a projector screen. There she was on video, prying at a locked gate clearly marked "No Trespassing." There she was, caught red-handed, literally covered in bright orange dye while sneaking onto land that didn't belong to her. Gasps filled the room. Some board members shifted uncomfortably, realizing just how far Karen had been stretching the truth. Neighbors who had previously stayed quiet suddenly found their voices, murmuring in disbelief. One even whispered that they had seen Karen driving through the ranch, rode more than once but had been too nervous to speak up until now. Karen's face drained of color as her authority unraveled. The board chair, usually diplomatic, couldn't hide his frustration. He reminded everyone that the ranch land was private property, entirely outside the HOA's jurisdiction. The gate was not only legal but necessary. Karen's actions were not only inappropriate, they were criminal trespass. The sheriff's department confirmed it. With the footage, the dye stains, and the property reports, there was more than enough evidence to file charges. Karen received a formal notice of trespassing, along with a warning that any further incidents would result in arrest. Her fury boiled over. She stormed out of the meeting, slamming the door so hard the walls rattled. But the damage was done. Her credibility was shattered. The self-appointed sheriff of the neighborhood had been caught red-handed, and no amount of spin could undo the proof plastered on that screen. From that day forward, Karen's influence in the HOA crumbled. The board stopped entertaining her constant complaints. Neighbors, once wary of her wrath, now saw her as nothing more than a nuisance who had finally been put in her place. Her SUV, once a familiar sight sneaking through the ranch road, was never spotted there again. As for the homeowners, their gate remained standing stronger than ever. The die trap was cleaned and reset just in case. The cameras stayed, their silent, watchful eyes a constant reminder that trespassing would never go unnoticed again. But the story didn't end there. The video spread beyond the HOA meeting. Someone leaked it to a neighborhood group chat, and soon it circulated among friends, then friends of friends. Within days, it reached social media. Clips of Karen fumbling with the gate, covered in orange dye, became viral entertainment. Titles like HOA Karen Gets Marked and Caught in the Act made the rounds, racking up thousands of views. Neighbors chuckled. Strangers laughed. Karen, once feared for her sharp tongue and relentless complaints, became the butt of jokes. Her SUV, forever stained on the inside by her desperate attempt to hide the evidence, sat like a scarlet letter in her driveway. She avoided eye contact with neighbors, no longer the queen bee she once believed herself to be. For the family on the ranch, peace finally returned. No more broken locks, no more tire tracks where they didn't belong. Their livestock roamed safely, their privacy intact. They hadn't wanted a war, but when Karen forced their hand, they had answered in the smartest way possible, not with anger, but with proof. The message was clear. Their land was theirs. Their boundaries mattered. And no one, not even an HOA Karen, had the right to trample them. In the end, it wasn't just about a gate. It was about standing up to someone who thought rules didn't apply to them. It was about protecting what mattered and showing the power of patience, planning, and persistence. And for Karen, it was about learning the hard way that entitlement has consequences. The ranch gate still stands today, as solid as ever, a quiet symbol of victory, a reminder that sometimes the simplest traps, the ones nobody sees, coming can change everything.